Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakak Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learn this truth from the whole truth well. Peace and salutation to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you I say Shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit. And I'm entitled this one, we're at the end of this empire. Because it's evident, if Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai has given you the Spirit to understand that we're in the last days of the last days, that we're in the end of this current empire, this current kingdom being ran by the so-called white man. Because majority of the people up on the planet Earth, they don't really know who's in rulership. You know, a lot of people are starting to wake up to the fact that it's the tiny caps, the tiny hats over there in the land of Israel that are ruling the world. But what most people don't consider is, or they consider it, but they don't really have the right answer of who is next to rule upon the planet Earth, which is ultimately going to be the nation of Israel, starting with Yahushai, who everybody ignorantly calls Christ, and the elect, which consists of 144,000, and a large multitude. That's who's going to run the next world to come next, which it ain't going to be the world's going to blow up into 1,000 pieces. No, the kingdom of heaven, the next kingdom, is going to be here upon the planet Earth, where the laws, statutes, commandments are going to be at the forefront. They're going to be at the forefront, where it's going to be pushed out throughout the four corners of the earth. The heathens are going to be subjects. The heathens are going to have to keep the laws, statutes, commandments. And if they don't, that's when we're going to have to put that judgment upon them. Because the nation of Israel at that time point and period will be in a new covenant, which consists of the new bodies with the laws, statutes, commandments written in our inward parts. That's what we're looking forward to. So the end of this empire is almost near. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that follow? And this is Ezra asking the angel, a sincere question, like, well, when is the signs? What are the signs of because ultimately Ezra will be back in these last days through reincarnation. But he's asking the angel, what's going to be the signs? Well, how are we going to know that we're at the end of the world, which ultimately that word world is going into age, aeon. It's not going into the whole world's going to blow up and nobody's going to survive. No, that's all, fables. Ultimately, the kingdom of heaven is going to be up on the planet Earth, which that's the only kingdom that's never going to be brought down. But first we got to go through Esau, Edom's last minutes of ruling upon the planet Earth, which he's not going to give up his kingdom so easily, as he's starting to come down with that great wrath. Verse 8, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac and Jacob and Esau were born of him. Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. Yeah, and that's letting you know who the protagonists are in this movie of the Heavenly Father, of the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, which is ultimately the nation of Israel, which is Jacob, and the nation of Esau, Edom, which is the self-proclaimed white people. These are the people that are ruling upon these last days, or the Edomites are the ones that are ruling upon these last days, which will be made manifest when the wicked will be revealed, like it says in the First Thessalonians chapter 2. The wicked have been revealed in these last days to show the world who's ruling upon the planet Earth, and ultimately to reveal who Esau Edom is, which is the self-proclaimed white man. Verse 9, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And we're at the end of the world. We're at the end of this age, end of this aeon, being ran by Esau, Edom. And his time of ruling is just about up. That's why he's scrambling. His psyops are starting to look tacky, because this devil has ran out of wisdom, like it says in the scriptures. Is wisdom no more found in teaming? And so ultimately, no. This devil's plan is foolish. The NWO is foolish. The RFID micro C hip everybody to put everybody in 15-minute cities is all madness. That's why Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is going to have to put a stop to this devil. He's just going to have to put a stop to this devil. Because if not, he would end up destroying himself. He would destroy humanity as a whole. But we know that Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is not going to allow for the elect of the nation of Israel to get destroyed. Yeah, you might have some martyrs, but ultimately, for the most part, the elect will be kept, which that's going to be the beginning of the kingdom of heaven, when the elect get beamed up into the chariot, the big fathership, when Yahweh Shai cracks the skies and deliver his elect, but also to destroy America by the way of thermonuclear missiles, bring Esau, Edom down, and deliver his elect. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And ultimately the scriptures are not going to tarry. They're not tarrying, because all these last prophecies that are here, Jacob's trouble is basically here. All hell breaking loose. All hell's breaking loose. You got the infrastructure for the MOTB basically set up. Everything's in place for Esau, Edom to be destroyed, which that's right around the corner as well. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And that's the point. It's not tarrying no more. Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is making it manifest who the wicked are, who the children of Israel are, which is the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All these nations are rising up against each other, letting you know that we're in the last days of the last days. All these prophecies, they're not tarrying no more. Our people can't say, oh, y'all been speaking about that for decades, it hasn't came to pass. Now a lot of the scoffers and mockers, they're quiet, because Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is shutting these scoffers' mouths up. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privily, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Yeah, and this is the disciples coming up to Yahweh Shai, asking what's going to be the signs of your second coming. Like a couple verses down, it's gonna explain it. Verse 4, and Yahweh Shai answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Yeah, and ultimately the elect are not going to be deceived, by the false prophets, these 2/3 Israelites, that are preaching false doctrine. But the rest of our people, the 2/3, they're going to be deceived, by Esau, Edom's pseudoscience, his psyops, and ultimately they're going to be deceived by that MOTB. The Esau, Edom's going to tell them, take this charagma, you're not going to die, just like the serpent in the garden. Verse 5, and many shall come in my name, saying, I am the anointed, and shall deceive many. Yeah, and that's what these false prophets are doing. Talking about they're the top guy, you should do this and you should do that. Prophecy doesn't matter. That's letting you know that Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is not dealing with them, because ultimately the spirit of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy. Verse 6, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And this is what's happening, letting you know that we're at the end of the very end. But these last prophecies still do got to come to pass. The wars and rumors of wars, isn't that already happening? The U.S. making enemies out of really the whole world. Making enemies out of Venezuela, Mexico, the NATO and the EU, which is his allies, making an enemy out of them. And that's tying back to prophecy. The beast shall hate the whore. That's what's starting to happen now. The beast is starting to hate the whore because of what it's doing. Just taking over all these countries, going in these countries, taking their resources. And all the nations, they're fed up with it. They're fed up with Babylon the Great. They're fed up with their Babylonian wine, their ideologies. So Yahweh Bashim El Shai is about to make his move upon the planet Earth, and he's doing it. Verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. See there, and there shall be famines and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. And this is all happening around the planet Earth. But only the elect of the nation of Israel, of Yahweh Bashim El Shai, are going to see these things and be like, okay, this is all biblical prophecy, like it says in the scriptures, measuring the time diligently. We're going to see these events take place and tie it back to biblical prophecy. While the rest of the world, they may look at all these things, civil wars about to unfold, all the things happening around the planet Earth, and people will just brush it off like it's no big deal. But that's ultimately because Yahweh Bashim El Shai didn't give them the spirit to understand what times we're in. Verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Yeah, and then, we're at the beginning of sorrow. It's only going to ramp up more and more. It's only going to turn up more and more. It's not gonna turn down, because we're at that point where Yahweh Bashim El Shai is about done warning the wicked of our people. He's done, the warning Jake, telling Jake to get right. And he's about to let Esau, Edom, come down on the wicked of our people, because they refuse to hearken unto Yahweh Bashim El Shai. They refuse to hearken, and we're at the very end, still playing games in that spirit of eating and drinking. So Yahweh Bashim El Shai is about to, let our people know, the 2/3, the hard way, letting them know what times they're in, not by speaking, because, we're out there on the highways and byways speaking, warning our people, but they're not going to take heed. So Yahweh Bashim El Shai is just going to have to send that judgment upon a 2/3 of our people, of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and upon these heathens, but that's pretty much the point. I pray this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh Bashim El Shai, Bashim Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learn this truth from him who do rule well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom.